Joe Rogan slams CNN, declaring that everyone knows they're full of shit. In this video, we're going to look at Rogan's epic takedown of CNN. We're going to see how he's absolutely right. CNN has destroyed their business. And stick me to the very end of this video when I'll reveal how what's happened to CNN is actually happening to the whole of the mainstream media. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote. As each and every day, I provide patriotic analysis to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and woke and turbulent times. So if you haven't done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. And before we begin, gang, you may have heard, guess who's coming to Houston this weekend for the American Freedom Tour? Well, I am, of course, but you may have heard that someone else is coming, and that's the one and only number 45 himself, President Donald J. Trump. That's right. So I'm just so excited that I'm going to be sharing the stage with President Trump at the next American Freedom Tour stop in Houston, Texas on January 29th. And I want to see you there. I want to meet you in person. We're going to be holding an exclusive Turley Talks live Q&A. That's Saturday night. And if you're one of the first 150 people to sign up for the Houston event, you're going to be invited to that Q&A. It's going to be absolutely awesome, but spots are limited. So click on that link below right now and register to join me, President Trump, Don Trump Jr., Kayleigh McEnany, a host of other amazing patriots in Houston on January 29th. I can't wait to see you there. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. Podcast extraordinaire Joe Rogan turned heads the other day when he took on CNN and was frankly brutally honest with the cable news network's colossal collapse. Here's Rogan interviewing his guest author and cultural critic James Lindsay, and here's what he had to say about the most distrusted name in fake news.
Me hope, and I don't know why I should have any hope, is that they said that CNN was going to switch their format to an objective news format, and they were going to get rid of all their opinion-based editorial staff, like the Don Le Monde, like those knuckleheads. They were going to get rid of them.
You know, that would be, if it's genuine, a positive step.
Well, they have to know that they've destroyed their business.
They have no credibility left.
And they have to think that, you know, like, but the thing about the 90% drop in their ratings last year, they want to say that it's because of scandals. That's like what it, because, you know,
well, those
Cuomo
don't help,
and
but
they don't help. The two guys, again, two more people that got busted being pedophiles, right?
Yeah.
That were on their staff, which is fucking wild.
It's
producers.
Totally nuts.
Right,
Totally
producer for Jake Tapper, and there's a producer for, who else was the other producer? Was it Cuomo?
Yes, I think so. Because he got all, no, yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I can't remember. Two high-level producers, though.
But that's, no, most people don't know that, though. Most people aren't even aware of that because they never even covered it.
Right, it's that their programming sucks.
It's not just that it sucks, but it's preposterous.
Preposterous, yes.
Yeah, it's preposterous.
It's like Solzhenitsyn says, you know, we know they're lying, they know they're lying, we know they know, you know, the whole thing.
It's also the smugness in which they disseminate propaganda. That they're, people know that they're full of shit, and they're doing it with a smugness, and it's just, it turns people off.
Turns them way off.
It would turn people off even if they were accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, that attitude sucks.
It sucks.
It's like, I remember when I was a kid, like my mom being like, you know, what you're saying might be right, but your attitude sucks or whatever, you know, if I was smart enough.
It's also an extreme lack of understanding of human nature. The way they discuss things, like one of the things they were talking about, shaming people, like whether or not we should start shaming, you know, people for not following the public health guidelines that have changed over and over again and been proven over and over again to be wrong.
Right.
Like, what are you fucking saying?
See, this is,
you're on the news, and you're talking about shaming people.
Shaming people.
Now, there's so much there. First and foremost, Rogan's brutally honest about how far CNN has gone in destroying their business. We did a video about this last week or so. The ratings for CNN have come in, and compared to this time last year, their ratings are down an astonishing and embarrassing 90%. They have lost 90% of their audience over the course of a year. CNN averaged less than 550,000 viewers during the week of January 3rd of this year, while they were averaging upwards of 3 million the same time last year. Their 1-year anniversary for January 6th was a bust. It was a total bust. No one cared. We talked about this last week. No one cared. No one tuned in because what's January 6th compared to the insurrection at our borders? What's January 6th compared to these insane mandates? What's January 6th compared to the worst inflation since the Carter years or the insane policy of defunding the police? So as Rogan points out, it is objectively clear. It's indisputable. CNN has destroyed their business. And we know why, or better, how they destroyed their business. Rogan's guest, James Lindsay, he pointed out that they simply have no credibility left. And the business model of the news media rests on credibility. The only way that a news media outlet has any viability is if it's first and foremost considered by a significant number of people a credible source for the accurate dissemination of information. If an audience discerns that a media outlet is lying to them or contaminating the information that's being disseminated to them, they are going to inevitably reject that information as unreliable, right? When all is said and done, the success of modern journalism is built on trust. The only way modern journalism works is if audiences trust the news outlets as reliable mediators of information. If they're suddenly seen as propagandists who are pushing lies and deceit, the audience abandons them, inevitably. And this is precisely what's happened to CNN. As Rogan pointed out, it's not just that their programming sucks. In his word, their programming is preposterous. Or as his guest, James Lindsay, pointed out in referring to Alexander Solzhenitsyn, CNN has fallen victim to something that Soviet scholars call a kind of hyper-normalization. Okay, so for example, when Russians knew that their system was so corrupt and intellectually bankrupt, they nevertheless pretended to believe it. They pretended to accept the technocrats' lies about their economy, that it wasn't falling apart, precisely because they found it impossible to imagine an alternative system for them. It's like a failed marriage that nevertheless persists because the couple has no idea how to end it. That's hypernormalization. Hypernormalization works very much the same way. It's a fraud that has in effect been normalized. Everyone knows that the powers that be are a corrupt fraud, but they put up with it anyway because they simply can't imagine an alternative. That's the way CNN is presenting itself. Brian Stelter, Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper, they're all literally pretending that what they're saying is accurate information, when all of us know, including them, that it's all absolute bullshit. But unlike the Soviet Union, and unlike hypernormalization, American audience do have an alternative. We have plenty of alternatives to the simulated woke reality that CNN mediates. And that's the key to their fall. That's the key to their demise. And ironically, Joe Rogan is the very embodiment of that alternative. What we have to understand is that the hypernormality of the mainstream media is being slowly but surely replaced by what's called the network society. Now, this is a major theme on this channel precisely because we're a part of this. We're a part of the rise of a network society. This is where an internet-based society, news and information is being increasingly dispersed away from centralized control by monolithic news networks, and it's now increasingly available to all, literally at our fingertips, in the palm of our hands, on our smartphones, often brought to us by independent content creators. It's very similar to the way email and texting and social media apps have largely replaced the post office, right? We still use the post office on occasion, but the vast majority of our contact with one another is through the instantaneous interaction on the internet. I mean, that's the network society. And so this massive societal shift away from the old legacy media to the new independent content creator media is leaving the legacy media in the dust. Take a look at this. You may have seen this. Joe Rogan is totally disrupting the old legacy media. According to Q3 ratings, Rogan's podcast gets literally 4 times the views of the highest rated news shows on cable, such as Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. Tucker's pulling in on average, as I understand, about 3 million an episode, but Rogan's pulling in 11 to 12 million an episode. And so when social media outlets attempted to censor Rogan's interview with Dr. Robert Malone, right? Remember that? With the whole notion of mass psychosis, it didn't matter. The censoring was futile, and that's because Rogan is part of a network society that's completely bypassing the old legacy media. And so this latest episode on his podcast for me really brought to the fore just how much our world really is changing right before our very eyes. There was a time when populations consumed information from a set number of monopolists of information, of which CNN was a major source, and MSNBC and New York Times and the like. But that information monopoly is dead today. We're now living in the midst of a network society that's dispersed information away from monopolist institutions and has made it readily available to the masses, such that the masses are no longer listening to outlets like CNN or taking them even remotely seriously. Joe Rogan, in effect, is saying the quiet part out loud. He's saying what the vast majority of the population already believes. CNN is dead, or in his words, CNN is full of shit. That network that was once touted as the most trusted name in news has collapsed. It's died. It's been crushed under the weight of a rising network society that quite literally is changing everything. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on MSNBC's race-baiting commentator Joy Reid finally and mercifully getting canceled. You're going to absolutely love it, so make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.